Greetings Internet, Didier here, and welcome to another Dragon Ball Z deck profile video that we're bringing to you. This time we have an all-original Brawly Saiyan Lockdown. This guy has paved the way for Saiyan Lockdown in my opinion. You could do it before, but the other MPs didn't have a focus on it. And with this, the way that we set up and build this deck, you're going to be locking down your opponent, keeping them at 0 power stages, stopping all leveling, while having enough control and critical damage effects to be able to keep the control decks at bay. So without further ado, let's check out the list. Let's scan over the list real quick. So this, after I made major modifications to this Brawly Saiyan Lockdown deck, it's almost been undefeated, almost. I took it to last year's Gen Con tournament and went undefeated and was crowned victorious there. So I've been waiting to do this deck profile video because this deck is just a monster and its playstyle is one that I like. It's an aggressive control deck. It's kind of in the middle. Because you're not as face beats as an aggro deck, you have a lot of tricks that you can play and a lot of planning and setup, as you can see. So now let's go over the attacks. So just as a brief lead in before we go over the attacks, I just want to explain a little bit of what you're going to be doing with this deck. This is a Saiyan Brawly Lockdown again, so you're going to be finding you're playing most of your game on level 1 and level 2. Actually, I would say that if you go into the level 3 and level 4, chances are you're losing the game at that point. If you, in certain matchups, it may be beneficial for you to go to the level 3 because of the extra critical damage effect. So if you're facing a heavy Dragon Ball matchup, you could find yourself wanting to go to that level. But this deck generates enough anger with the skipping from the Mastery and the level 1 2 anger on Rejuvenation. The Mastery activates your level 1 anger, so you can always activate that even if you don't have enough stages to pay for your power. There are some games where I will find myself getting stuck on level 1. But to be honest with you, I almost don't even care. I've won plenty of games not leaving level 1. This deck does not need to level, but it does level enough that it's designed to camp on the level 2. The level 2 is really the reason the reason this deck runs. Yep, the level 2 there. So of course, you got the 2 Rejuvenation and then the searching of the styled setup or drill. That is the engine of this deck. It originally wanted to do this because Saiyan didn't have very good drill tutors, and of course a lockdown. When you think of lockdown, you think of hanging out drill, because that's how you're really going to lock. So, and that's the reason this deck was created, and then from that, just the controlling nature of the new Brawly stack just ended up working out really, really well. And like I said, this deck is almost undefeated. I think it's only lost maybe once or twice. I would say it's on the same level of the Red Ruthless Majin Vegeta, because that's actually what I used in development of this deck. I actually just ran this deck into my Red Ruthless Majin Vegeta deck until it started winning, and that's how I developed it. So, and you may be asking, DDA, why aren't you running the stage pressure level 3 and level 4? As I mentioned earlier, if you get to level 3 and level 4, you probably are losing. Meaning that the opponent is using a lot of leveling effects, that affect your leveling, and probably bouncing up and down themselves. So that's why I do like, originally I had this in here as a mistake, but then as I started to play it, I do like the life card pressure, especially on the level 4, because the old level 4, while it's ridiculous damage, it doesn't actually generate you an action. It got the 2 top banish, but this deck doesn't really need the extra board control because it plays a slow game itself. And then likewise, the extra pressure from the extra attack and plus damage. Like I said, you're losing if you get to these levels. So therefore, chances are your opponent has stages. So the life card beats actually works out really well, and it'll also trick the opponent too, because you're playing the full new stack. So they're gonna think you're like There's two versions of this deck you can build: the oppressive brawly. So if they see full stack like this, they're gonna think you're like a leveling life card beats energy attack deck, and then they are gonna be very, very surprised when they stage lock you and you're still pounding them in the face. Yeah, just really, I love this deck so much. So I don't want to, I could ramble for days. So let's get into the attacks. So we got my favorite right here. Wanted to start out with this. Have had a lot of discussions. 3 Saiyan face off. Never, ever, ever leaving this deck. Why? Because this is a lockdown deck. There are so many reasons why this card is amazing. The first reason is because the oppressive mastery gives it a skip, and there is nothing in this world that is more oppressive than skipping and discarding a card from your opponent's hand, because you can take out a block and then just hit them with 2 attacks. It's utterly devastating. No deck can recover from that. If it's an energy deck, it's pretty much a win if you open with this card. The other thing is leveling. So this is a lockdown deck. It is always combating leveling, because leveling gives your opponent 10 stages, and you want them locked at 0. Because it's a stage pressure deck. The deck doesn't have that high damage by itself, and it really banks on being an F on the level 2. It doesn't have many modifiers on the board. The level 2 doesn't add damage, so you know that you're going to want them locked at 0 to maximize your damage output. And this is one of the cards that's going to help you stop the opponent from leveling, because it's going to discard their Unleashed. It's going to discard their I'll Dig Your Grave. That's going to sweep your drills as well. It is going to do so many things for you. Time is a warrior's tool, discarding. I can't speak highly enough of this card. Everyone always says that, and the other thing about this card is that it only has to be the first card you play from your hand. So because of the nature of this deck, you can actually control the field with your mastery, your power, using the setups, activating your drills, and have the opponent not think and just kind of play a stall game. Wait for them to use some tutor effects. Wait for them to, maybe Gohan level 2 or something. And then suddenly you throw out this face-off mid-combat. And they're like, wait a minute. I thought that needed to be your first card. Yeah, first card played from hand, sir. Yes. And I know it discards a card from your hand, but I'm telling you, you're going to have a handful of attacks with this deck. This deck does not play that many blocks. And you have the hand cycling from the mastery. You're going to have 3 or 4 attacks in your hand, and you're not going to notice it. It's going to be fine. You're going to discard their Unleashed. They're going to get an attack that you care about, but the damage that you're going to do because of that single discard way outweighs the damage that they would have done, with that attack. So that is number 1 on my list. Next up, we have Sayin Grab. Great for lockdown. Obviously, we're going to be usually stronger. This is going to be unstoppable. It's going to hit them to 0, or going to do at least 4 or 5 damage, and then you are going to draw a card. Crazy card for lockdown. I love entering combat with this, shooting out an unstoppable grab, getting the skip, doing 3 or 4 damage, locking them at 0, then activating Brawly Power to get Hanging Out Drill, and then enacting a lock right there. This is one of the key lockdown cards that's going to allow you to do that. It would not be a Saiyan drill deck without Saiyan Turning Kick. I have often said in many videos that this is the best Saiyan attack. I would put this in the top 5 attacks in the game across all styles. This is just... It doesn't matter that this is a life card beat card. This card will just win you games, get you crits, chunk the opponent's deck, and get you free drill tutors during combat 3 endurance. You can't talk about that card more. Tandem attack. Tandem strike. So I've gotten, when this card came out, I said Brawly used it, and I got flack for it, and I thought it was funny, because right here it is, broskies. This deck is tournament champion, near undefeated, 3 of this card, not going anywhere. This is a drill tutor. It increases your damage. It enacts the lock. I love entering combat, opening tandem strike. If it hits, it locks them at 0. I go grab Hanging Out Drill. There's the lock right there. And if they block it, then I know I can hit my bigger, beefier attack, like a Legendary Strike or a Turning Kick or something like that. This is a bait block. This will let your Turning Kicks hit. There's a lot of good things about this card, and most notably that it is a lock in itself. It will lock the opponent down by itself. It needs no support. You hit them to 0 with this stage attack, and then you go grab Hanging Out Drill. Yeah, not much more needs to be said about it. It could be better if it wasn't hit, but it'd be overpowered if it wasn't hit. Next up here, we have Upward Kick. So this was kind of in and out for a while, but I stuck with 3 Upward Kicks in here, mostly because the amount of stage gain that is being integrated into this game is massive. There's so much stage gain right now. You know, from the Oppressive Mastery, from the Red Style Masteries, all the new Red Style cards that gain stages. There's just so much. All the orange cards that gain stages, that new double energy attack that is basically free with the stage gain. So many of the orange cards gain stages. So like orange and red are big for this card. Namekian 2. There's a lot of stage gain. And this is there a lot of times, a lot of good players, they will sit and they will wait and they will hold their stage gain until after you're done beating their face. So it's always good to open with this card with the skip, and then you just don't have to worry about it for the rest of combat. You know that they're locked at 0. The only thing that you have to prevent is leveling then. It's big and beefy. I hate how it doesn't have endurance. It does +4, so it's good. It just counters so many cards in the meta that I think it has a spot and it shouldn't go anywhere right now. But I can see this being removed for something else or something better. So next up here, we have Saiyan Spin Kick. This is standard bread and butter. You can't go wrong with it. Anger raise, anger lower. Helps you push up to the level 2 a little bit quicker. Endurance, solid damage. And then you need a little bit of ally destruction. This deck destroys ally decks because of Menace Loop. This deck does Menace Loop probably easier than any other deck I've done Menace Loop with. Yeah, I would say that. Even easier than Raditz. Like, Raditz is the highest combo potential with Menace, but you need to get up to that level 4. This deck runs out of the gate, and it's like level 1 and level 2, you already have a Menace Loop. And so they're crying. I've Menace Looped on level 1. There's nothing better than Menace Loop on level 1. I love it. They don't expect it. Like, coming out of the gate, ally decks, it hurts so much. But you need that little bit, because they can do some shenanigans to stop you from Menace Looping, and they can, have Chi-Chi out and all that stuff. Allies are getting ridiculous, so I don't think you go wrong with that card. Severing Punch is in here to stop leveling. It's pretty much one of the best Saiyan attacks. I would say Turning Kick is better, but that's up for debate, depending on the meta. But this card is solid. 2 endurance, AT +4, can't go wrong. Mainly in here to stop the leveling, though. I didn't have it in here originally. I immediately added it because I needed the extra Unleashed, anti-Unleashed, anti-Anger, just absolutely needed. Dev Blow, hey, card of all time, can't go wrong. If I'm going to have one freestyle attack in here that goes against what my mastery wants to do, it's going to be Dev Blow, because anti-Anger to stop leveling, need that little bit of discard pile, destruction, and yeah, just a little bit of anger to get up to the level 2. Don't really need the anger. Mainly in here for anti-anger and discard pile manipulation. Legendary Strike. I mean, I shouldn't really have to mention too much about this card. With Brawly, you get the extra crits, and the anti-anger is just, it's needed. 3, never going away in Brawly. And then my little bit of spice, a little bit of extra spice in here. I literally added this in because this is a slower deck. This is not something that I would consider a staple in any sort of Brawly deck. It is flat 5, so it does not make use of Brawly's AT. So that's a big turnoff there. It also has no endurance. But the thing that this card does give you is it gives you extra critical damage effects so you can activate during combat. And because of the slower nature of this deck, I found that it needed that. It just needed that little bit of extra crits to stop the Dragon Ball decks. That was like the damage of this deck is medium to low. It's not, the damage is not high of this deck what you're getting with this deck is the control and the anti-aggro, basically, because you're locking the opponent down, and most straight aggro beats decks will lose to you. You will beat all ally decks. You will beat most straight aggro beats decks and combo decks just because you have good board control. You can lock them down. The big glaring weakness of this deck is decks that are going to level hop and decks that are going to play Dragon Balls. So this is in here for the Dragon Ball matchup, and the extra crit for anti-anger can help sometimes. All right, that's it for the attacks. Oh no, sorry, that's not it for the attacks. We have a few energy attacks, not many energy attacks. We literally just have these 2 tantrums in here just for the reveal crit effect. That is it. That's why I only run 2 of it. I hate throwing this attack. I'll tell you straight up. This deck does not play that many energies. This is always blocked. When they see this drop, they don't want you to get that 3 rejuve. They're going to always block this. I hate throwing this attack. I just basically see it as losing 2 stages, giving my opponent a good effect on a block. I hate using it as an attack. But what it is good for is in the matchups where crits matter, you hold this in your hand. It gives you that little bit of extra crit. Again, weakness of this deck, leveling and Dragon Ball decks, so that the extra crits are in here for that. Of course, we're running the 3 Eraser Cannons. Funny story, I actually started this deck. When I first built this deck, I only had 3 freestyle cards, and this was it. And because of that, I actually tried it as a surprise attack deck for a little bit, because I thought, well, I only have these 3 freestyle cards. Why not try surprise attack, and I can take out the unleashed from the deck, and it'd be good. But then I found that board decks were running me over, and I really needed the Eraser Cannon for the extra control. So I went back, I reverted, I took out the surprise attack, added the Eraser Cannon, and the deck has been near undefeated ever since. Really strong. It goes with the slow nature of the deck. And the last energy attack is Tracking Blast, of course needed in any Saiyan drill build. You need this card. I've contemplated adding a second one into this. The deck just doesn't have the room for it, simply put. But this is pretty much my first attach card. If I know I'm going to be leveling to 2. Rescue, it's basically this or Rescue. I think they're the only 2 attach cards in the deck. But this is close to being my first one every time, because if I'm hitting the level 2, I need that protection on my drills. Alright, so that's it for the attacks, and now let's go over the events and blocks. So starting with the events and blocks here, we're going to start with 3 Stare Down. Again, this is a controlled deck. This is a slower deck. So I'm fine with, trading 1 for 1, 1 card for 1 card. I see this as an extra face-off and, kill that Unleashed. It's mainly Unleashed. And it was a choice between this or Sphere. I like Sphere, but Sphere's not always going to help me. It's often a dead card. This will always help me, and so I'll always add 3 Stare Down before I even add a single Sphere in an aggressive build. So, yeah, 3 Stare Down, 3 Face Off. Who cares about Sphere? Aggro. Single copy of Rescue. Good card. Solid card. I mean, this card came out in set 2 and has been a staple in Saiyan decks. Single target Rejuve. Can't go wrong. Activate your back crashes. Activate your Menace. Activate your level 1 anger power. There's so many good things about this card, and just helps you play the slower game. And then that's it for the events. Only 4 events. Crazy. But starting out with the blocks here. Hey, Time is a Warrior's Tool. You know it's going to happen. It's got to be in here. And the physical blocks, we are running overall very light on the blocks. We only have 5 physical blocks. The 3 skips, obvious, because it just works. It gives you everything. Like it's basically this plus. I don't like the new block for this build. I don't need the attach card. I don't need the extra anger. So I really would like to replace this, to be honest with you. So I can try out the new block, I think. Maybe. I just don't feel like I need the anger. And I feel like the attach card might be a liability. So I could use the extra. I would like to replace this block, to be honest with you. But the extra anger does help. It does help in some matchups. So I may want to try the new block. I don't know. It's losing 1 endurance. I could see it. I would say they're almost even. Because you don't really need the anger. You don't really need it. And that's the only reason. So, of course, yeah, the skip blocks are needed. They give you everything you need on this deck. And then energy blocks. I'm actually running 3 energy blocks in this deck. And if you watch my previous videos, you know I'm a big advocate of heavy stage beats, especially like you're talking about a lockdown build. Like, this deck is designed to keep the opponent at 0, so why are we running energy blocks? Well, this specific energy block is the only reason why I would put this at 3. Normally, I'd only play about 2 energy blocks, maybe even no energy blocks, and stick with Omni blocks, because I could add Outrage in here, and I think I messed around with that for a little bit. But I ended up taking Outrage out and adding Saiyan Blockade for the hard energy block, because in matchups that you're not going to use this, it actually helps you a ton. I can't tell you how many times I've been playing as the defender against a physical aggro deck. They have maybe 2 PUR, and they raise up their 2. They got their board control card in their hand. They're like, all right, it's time to take out that hanging out drill. I'm entering combat. I'm going aggro. I'm doing it. And then they enter. You trigger mastery. You discard this card, banish it. -2 stages. Their whole plan is foiled. What if they're an orange deck and they're running orange stare down, and they need 2 stages. They have 4 PUR or 3 PUR. Well, they have 3 PUR, and you leave them with 1 stage, and they can't do the orange stare down now. There are so many scenarios where this card, it helps you aggressively. It'll mill them if they're already at 0. So I almost never use it as an energy block. I actually use it as the draw discard -2 stages. It has 2 endurance. So it's an aggressive, defensive, and all-around very versatile card. I love this card. There was one time where I went down to 2 of this card, and I immediately went back up to 3 because it's just so powerful both aggressively and defensively. So that's it for the blocks. So now let's go over the planning. So starting out here with the planning. The planning is very important in this deck because you're going to have the tutor. So the tutor is huge for you. It's going to allow you to make a lot of in-combat decisions based on what the opponent is doing. You're going to be able to counter the opponent's plan. So that's why we're going to want an even spread of non-combats, of planning in this deck. So that's why I'm going to start out with this single copy of Intimidation. This wasn't in my original version of the deck, but after some play testing, I added this in because it is so powerful to just sit this on the board. And let me tell you, there are so many situations that you will fake the opponent out. I've been in Gohan ally matchups, and you just throw this Saiyan Intimidation on the board, and suddenly their entire game plan has to change. They now need to play around the Saiyan Intimidation. They need to think about every ally that they're playing, and just etc. etc. It's so powerful, and just to know that at any point in the game, you can just burn anything on the board. You have this single copy in your deck. Any point in the game, if you need to burn something, you can. It's amazing. I almost want to add a second, but it's just so perfect at 1 with the tutor. It's perfect. Perfect. Of course, the single copy of Pregame. This is a lockdown build. Pregame allows us to do too many nasty things. You know, open mastery, then mastery skip into something. Open level 2, open stare down. You know, enter pregame, stare down, do something. Enter pregame, level 2 power for something else. There's just so many nasty things you can do with pregame that you gotta have it in. 2 Saiyan Peace. This card is so integral to the deck. It stops leveling, and that's the main thing. Again, the 2 things that will kill this deck is leveling and Dragon Ball decks. I find I will be tutoring Peace often with my level 2 in certain matchups. It helps great against Unleashed builds, sending them back down after going up. You know, they're fighting your hand destruction anyway, and you may kill 1 or 2 Unleashed, and then suddenly, you know, they finally get their 1 Unleashed in hand, and you have 1 or 2 Peace. I've already had 2 Peace on board, had my opponent level once with Unleashed, and send them back down 2 levels. That's the great thing about it, too. You can double activate on a single level activation, so you can send them down 2 levels. Such a great card. Perfect for this deck. We play 2 drills at 2, and the first one we play at 2 is Saiyan Hanging Out drill. This is the engine for the deck. It forces the opponent to pay 1 stage with their first attack, which is very easy to manipulate when you have skips from the mastery. I have contemplated playing this deck dynamic. I've thought about playing it different things, but I always go back to the oppressive because of the skips with the lockdown, the extra stage lower, and then the auto activation of the level 1 anger with this. It's just too good. Hanging Out drill, needed it too. They'll get rid of your first one. The first one will be in the discard pile. You'll need a second one in the deck. The other drill I play 2 of is, of course, the Overwhelming Aura drill. This is in here at 2 for 2 reasons. 1, because we need that tracking blast on us as fast as possible. 2, because rescue is amazing, so drawing this at any point will be great. And 3, we need the extra anti-anger. We have so many instances of rejuve. We have rejuve, lots of rejuvenation in this deck, so we can keep the opponent down on their levels really, really low with this card on the field, so that's why it's at 2. And then more drills we have. We have single copies of Transformation Drill, another rejuvenation trigger. This just allows us to play a slower game, and it's great against orange decks, or red drill manipulation, or black drill manipulation. This deck does play a lot of drills, but in certain matchups when their board is fill and we only have 2 or 3 drills, we don't care. We'll bounce the drills to our hand and get a free card when entering combat, sure, with the mastery. And then Showdown Drill is in here. It doesn't really synergize because you don't get the hero effect, so you don't lose it. But extra damage is extra damage, and this deck is 90% physical, so it's triggering a lot. Extra damage is extra damage. That's why it's in here. And then last but not least, the final setup that we have in the deck is Metis. We play this at 2 copies. 3 is not needed because we don't have any combos like Raditz does. And then you just need the 2 copies to make sure you see 1. You just need 1 copy. You need to see 1 copy of this card, and that's why it's at 2. Once you get your 1 copy on the board, either tutor it with a level 2 or just draw it naturally, you start running the train, and that's really where this lockdown comes in. This deck was inspired from the Saiyan lockdown decks of yore that I've gotten so close to winning tournaments with, but never actually won a tournament. So this is actually the first lockdown deck that I've won a tournament with. But I got close in the retro days with a Majin Vegeta lockdown. So I'm really happy to bring this deck to light. It's ultra powerful, very, very. It's very fun for you to play. It's a very technical game that you have to play because you have to really know what direction your opponent is going to counter them, and then know when to go aggressive and when to play defensive, or play slower or play faster. That's a lot of things you have to learn with this deck with different matchups. But once you get the hang of it, it's really fun. It's really oppressive. It brings out the true nature of the mastery. People will hate playing against you with this deck. So I would not recommend playing with this deck against new players. I would not recommend playing with this deck against casual players. This is a strong, competitive, aggressive deck that once you learn how to play well, you will make all your opponents weep. So I hope you guys enjoyed this deck profile video. We'll be coming out with lots more videos in 2020, and we'll see you next time.